Today we're going to talk about equilateral triangles, which you can turn into 30, 60, 90 triangles, which is a very special type of triangle, has special properties. So first let's talk about what an equilateral triangle is. Remember that all sides are congruent. All sides are congruent, so boop, 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 okay? And that all angles are congruent. And if they're all congruent, if I have three angles, and they have to add to 180 degrees. Each angle must be 60 degrees. Okay, so 60, 60, and 60, right? Well, what we're going to talk about today is what happens when you split this into a right triangle. So if I go over here real quick, this is still 60, but we have split this 60 in half. And what's half of 60? 30. Okay, so this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle, and it has special properties. It follows a nice little pattern. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before I just straight up tell you the pattern, let's kind of see if we can discover it. So looking at triangle A below, we know we just talked about, right, that this is 30 and that this is 60. Well, if this is an equilateral triangle and this side is 2, isn't this side 2? And I'm going to highlight the triangle we're working with. That'll make it a little bit easier. So this is 2, isn't this 2? Well, this is half of 2, which is what? 1. Okay? So now we can use the Pythagorean theorem to find this other part of the triangle. So remember, this will need to be labeled as C, and then you can just call these A and B. So if A squared plus B squared equals C squared, we're going to substitute in our values. So we have A squared plus 1 squared equals 2 squared. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. So A squared plus 1 equals 4. And then if we do 4 minus 1, we have 3. A squared equals 3. And then to undo a square, we take the square root. And we're just going to leave it like that. Don't give me any decimals or anything. So this is square root 3. Okay? So we've got 1, 2, square root of 3. Let's look at B. So we're going to do the exact same thing, except I've made it a different length, and I want to see if you can find the pattern. So when we're doing this one, this is 4, so this is 4. This would be half of 4, which is 2. And then we're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem to solve. So that's your C, right there. This is going to be your B, right there. And then this will be your A. So we're going to have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Our A we don't know, so A squared plus B squared, B is 2, so 2 squared, equals C squared, and C is 4, so 4 squared. 2 squared is 4, and 4 squared is 16. So A squared plus 4 equals 16. Now if we subtract both sides by 4, we'll have A squared equals 12, and we'll get the square root of 12. But you cannot leave it that way. You know that 12 breaks up into 4 and 3, or you can say 6 and 2. I'm going to do 4 and 3. And then 4 breaks up into 2 and 2. Okay? So we have a 2 here that we have a pair of, and then we have a 3 left over. So right here, this would be 2 square root 3. So do you see a pattern at all going on here? What if I actually put a 1 in here? Because there's really a 1, right? So 1, 2, 1 square root 3. 2, 4, 2 square root 3. First, let's discuss this pattern. So if this is 1, it looks like they multiplied by 2 to get this. Is that what happens over here? 2 times 2 is 4, so it does happen. So if we multiply this shorter side by 2, we get the hypotenuse. Let's look at what happens here. 1, 1 square root 3. So all they've done is multiply by the square root of 3. So let's look at this. 2, 2 square root 3. So I think that we can apply this to our problem over here just using the pattern. Okay? So using the pattern, we're going to look at this one right here. So if this is 6, this must be 3. And then remember what we do here with this. 3 square root 3. Okay? Now let's actually talk about the actual rule for this that I use. So the 30, 60, 90 triangle. The first thing you want to do is you want to label the sides. Okay? I call the side across from the 30 a short side, because it's the shortest side of the triangle. I call the side across from the 60 the medium side, And then the one across from the 90 is always the hypotenuse. Okay? So this one would be your medium side because it's across from 60. This one will be your short side, and that's going to be your hypotenuse. And we discussed what happened over here. So whatever the short side is, we multiply it by 2 to get the hypotenuse. Short side times 2, hypotenuse. Short side times 2, hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse equals the short side times 2. And then to find the medium side, short side times root 3, short side times root 3, short side times root 3. So for medium side, short side times root 3. All right? So this is what we're going to use the most. But you always want to label those sides first, okay? So let's move it down here and do some examples. Label first. Across from the 30 is the short side. So this one must be the 60. Across from the 60 is the medium side. And across from the 90 is the hypotenuse. Now you know the short side, right? Well, the medium side is the short side times root 3. So the medium side must be 10 root 3. Done with that one. The hypotenuse we know is the short side times 2. So then our hypotenuse here is going to be 10 times 2. And 10 times 2 is 20. So our hypotenuse in this picture is 20. Okay, we learned how to do this because if you only have one side, you can't use the Pythagorean theorem, right? So if you can't use the Pythagorean theorem and it's a special triangle, you could do this method. Let's look at number 2. Let's label. So that's going to be your short side. This is my hypotenuse. And this is my medium side. Okay? So what do we know here? Well, we don't know the short side, and it'd be really helpful if we did. So we're going to have to find it. What is given to us? The hypotenuse. And we know the hypotenuse is the short side times 2. So our hypotenuse is 14, which is the short side times 2. And to get the short side alone there, 2 is multiplying, so we're going to divide. So 7 equals the short side. So over here, we have 7. Now let's look at medium side. I'm going to write it here. The medium side is the short side times root 3, straight from the formula. Well, now we know our short side, right? It's 7. So 7 root 3. There we go. We filled in both sides of the triangle there. So let's look at number 3. On number 3, this would be the medium side. And then if this is 30, this is our short side. And then this is across from 90, so it's our hypotenuse. It would be really awesome if we knew the short side, but we don't. The only thing they gave us was the medium side. So we know the medium side is the short side times root 3. Well, our medium side is 6 root 3. So if we need to get short side alone, we would have to divide by root 3 on both sides. And if we divide by root 3 on both sides, we get 6. So we know this is 6. And then we have to find the hypotenuse. I'm going to write that over here. So our hypotenuse is the short side times 2. And we just found the short side, which was 6. So our hypotenuse would be 6 times 2. The hypotenuse would then be 12. Okay? So it's the same thing over and over and over. You're just labeling it and working it out. I'm going to move on down. And remember, if I'm going too fast, you can pause it and you can rewatch it and do whatever you need to do to understand the material. So on this page, I'm going to ask that you do 4 and bring that one to class. And I am going to talk about number 5. So on number 5, this would be your short side. This is your hypotenuse. And this is your medium side. So I don't know the short side. I wish I did, but I don't. But I do know the hypotenuse is the short side times 2. So 8 root 3 would equal the short side times 2. And since 2 is multiplying, we're going to divide both sides by 2. So, and let me write that out because sometimes people struggle with this right here. Do you see this right here? Do you see that the 8 and the 2, those are outies? So those you can divide. So 4 root 3 is the short side. So right here, this is 4 root 3, like that. Now we know that the medium side is the short side times root 3. What's our short side? We just found it. So medium side is 4 root 3 times root 3. And then check this out. These are both innies, so we can multiply them together. So the medium side is 4 root 9. And if we take the square root of 9, we get 3. So the medium side equals 4 times 3. And then we know 4 times 3 is 12. Woo! It's a lot of work, but I think you guys can handle it. All right? And I obviously show a lot more work than some people would. All right, so I'm going to talk about 6 also. So across from the 60, here's our medium side. This must be 30, so that must be our short side. And then this over here is our hypotenuse. So we don't know the short side. Wish we did, but we don't. We only know the medium side. And that's going to be the short side times root 3. Well, the medium side is 12. So 12 equals the short side times root 3. Here we're going to have to divide by root 3 on both sides. And now we're in a predicament, right? We can't have a denominator with a radical in it, so we have to rationalize. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by root 3. So here we have 12 root 3 over root 9 now. But what is the square root of 9? 3. So we have 12 root 3 over 3. But wait, these are outies. So 12 divided by 3 then is going to be 4. So 4 root 3 is your short side. So over here, I'm going to write 4 root 3. There we go. Now we have to work on the hypotenuse. And we know that the hypotenuse is 2 times the short side. We know that our short side now is 4 root 3. So our hypotenuse is 2 times 4 root 3. Well, these two, the 2 and the 4, are outies, so 2 times 4 is 8. So our hypotenuse is 8 root 3. And we are all done with that one. Box that up. All right, what I think I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to try 7, 8, and 9 and bring that to class, okay? So 7, 8, 9, and then number 4 right there. Do those, bring those to class, and then this one I'm going to talk about in class, okay? You can try it if you want, but you don't have to try it because I can talk about it in class when I see you, okay? So finish those up. I'll see you in class. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.